Hey everyone, as we're all getting ready and anticipating the 2022 League of Legends season, I want to talk a little bit about a topic that is always kind of close to my heart, which is the Rookie of the Year race that I'm kind of anticipating we're going to see. I talk a lot about Academy and upcoming prospects and that kind of thing. So I want to just go through a bit of a short list of the players that I'm looking at for the LCS in 2022 who are most likely to kind of be leading the way in the Rookie of the Year conversation throughout the year. And I am not so focused on predicting who I think is going to be the Rookie of the Year. It's a long year and a lot of things can happen, but I want to kind of look at who are the most likely leaders of that conversation and what needs to happen for them to pull ahead of the rest. So up front, I want to identify some players who are not technically going to be rookies, to my understanding of it. And as long as the criteria don't change, which could still happen, then players like Luger, Poom, Jenkins, Isles, Ayla, Blue, Kumo, all of these players have previous experience in Worlds qualifying leagues, whether it was last year or in previous years, or in Oceania or wherever. And they, I believe, will not be part of rookie ballots this year. So before I get into talking about the individual players that I think do have the best shot at this, let's identify some of the things that have to happen for any player. First of all, they need to play in a way that catches the attention of the voters, which includes broadcast members, both on-screen and off-screen, media, depending how they set it up, possibly a fan vote element, we'll have to see, right? And to catch that the attention of that whole group, you need to kind of stand out in certain ways. Being reliably solid isn't likely to get you a lot of votes, but can play into different things in different ways depending who that voting group is. And another really big thing is that it helps a lot if your team does well. It's very difficult to catch the attention of that voting group if your team isn't winning, either because some of that group might not pay as much attention to the losing teams, or it's just because it's difficult analytically to isolate a player's contributions when they're not winning. When you are winning, and then you get these, late game multi-kills and stuff like that, that partly come from the fact that your team is ahead, those become memorable, even if they aren't, in a hardcore sense, analytically as useful. So winning is very, very helpful. Just look back at last year. Blaze Olive really solid all year long, but Golden Guardians weren't a strong team in the standings. Very difficult for him to get a lot of credit for that. Compared to Danny coming in the summer, when EG did a lot of winning in the regular season, and Danny got a lot of credit for that, and deservedly so. But it was much easier to notice Danny than it was to notice Blaze Olive. So that's going to be a factor in all these players we talk about. But without further ado, let's talk about the first candidate, which is going to be Berserker. Now, obviously, there's a lot of hype coming in around Berserker coming in for Cloud9 with the entire Korean push that they're going for. And Berserker is a player where I think that note about kind of the team's success is going to be really, really important. I think he's going to play really well. And, based on what I've seen of him, I have high faith and high belief in his skill level. But the style that I've seen him playing, which is, a little more, cleanup, a little bit more conservative, making sure he doesn't make mistakes, making sure he stays at good, ranges from his opponents and all those kinds of things. That's something where if he's losing and if Cloud9 kind of falter, he's probably going to be fairly quiet and fairly invisible. He's not going to be throwing games based on my expectation, but he's not going to be kind of out there, turning things entirely around for the team without setup. If they're winning, though, he's going to be cleaning up those team fights. He's going to be racking up triple kills and huge damage numbers, and he's going to get a lot of votes for that. So he's someone where, if Cloud9 finish top 2 or even top 3 potentially, and if he performs at the level I kind of expect, he's going to be a very, very strong candidate. I think having a quiet spring split and then having a big surge in late summer could definitely be enough for him, because I think in the spring split, let's say Cloud9, does really poorly in the spring split, finishes 5th, 6th, or even worse. I think Berserker will be kind of forgotten in, relatively speaking, in the rest of the conversation around the entire team. But then if they bring it back even for the second half of summer and he pops off a bunch, that will, both because of recency bias and because of the way he plays, that will be very strong for him narratively. So, I think his candidacy is going to be really strong as long as Cloud9 perform well as a team. He's going to be hard to ignore for sure. Another candidate here is going to be, and I'm doing these alphabetically, by the way, on kind of my top 4 candidates. JoJo Pyun. This isn't a ranking of Berserker above JoJo Pyun or vice versa or whatever. In contrast to Berserker, obviously team success is still going to matter, but I think JoJo Pyun's candidacy is going to be affected a lot by narrative and momentum. Like, if he's going to generate a lot of both positive and negative highlight reel plays. He's going to have film on him that can be used to say, look at these big high skill moments and look what he can do for his team and how hard he can carry or whatever it is, how many plays he can make. And he's also going to have these moments that look really silly where he tries too hard for something, where he goes in with a 20% health bar trying to finesse some kind of a play and just dies. And he's going to have both of those. And so what's really going to matter for him is obviously, the balance of the two does matter, but it's also the balance of which gets focused on more in common sentiment. And that's going to be driven a lot by the broadcast. So if he starts off the season really poorly and generates a very strong negative highlight reel, God forbid he comes up with some kind of a nickname for those plays and starts to get memed for that, that is going to probably develop a lot of legs. And that would be really, really hard for him to overcome over the course of the year if that's what happens. It could come from social media, it could come from the broadcast itself, a marriage of the two. If he ends up in a bit of a negative narrative snowball, that could kind of sink him from fairly early on in the year in terms of his Rookie of the Year candidacy, not as a player, not his actual value to the team, but in terms of the votes he's going to get at the end of the year. But if he comes on early, or if he comes on hard enough, like midway through the season, and changes everybody's minds, and the narrative around him on the broadcast and among the fan community turns really positive, and that'll make them much more likely to kind of wave away the mistakes, to kind of give him momentum in the positive direction, and maybe that puts him then, in the lead, and maybe he never gives it up. So I think the narrative momentum around him, just because of what kind of style of player he is going to be really huge. And I never like to see anybody stuck in a negative narrative snowball. So for any of these players, but I think potentially in public sentiment that could really influence him a lot. So I think that's going to be the main thing that determines whether voters kind of get on his side or not. Another player in what's going to affect, I think, Shenyu as a candidate, I think he's a little more of a dark horse. So even though I'm doing these alphabetically, I think it's mostly going to end up being a 2-horse race between Berserker and JoJo Pyun. That's the most likely scenario to me. Shenyu is the dark horse to come in as third, I think. I think for Shenyu to be in this conversation, TSM definitely need to click as a team. I think Shenyu's engages, if he goes in on those and those lead to teamfight losses, he's going to maybe get a little bit of blame for it. If they lead to teamfight wins, he's going to get a lot of credit. And kind of the overall results of those fights are going to be a really big deal for him and what voters give him credit for. I think the fact that he's playing with Huni means Shenyu is probably going to be spending a lot of time on the map, heading towards the top lane, things like that. And ideally syncing up with Spica and making plays together on the map. And it's hard to know how much credit Shenyu is going to get for that versus Huni getting credit for receiving the ganks well, and snowballing from it, versus Spica getting credit for, hey, he's an MVP and the support's just following his lead kind of thing. When you look at other situations recently where top laners have had a ton of support attention or jungle attention, you look at Alphari, and Alphari got a ton of credit for that, which is not to say CoreJJ didn't, but CoreJJ invested immense amounts of time into the top lane, and Alphari got more credit for it than CoreJJ did, I would argue. If that happens with Shenyu and Huni, that's going to make it more difficult for Shenyu to stand out and to really kind of capture that Rookie of the Year narrative. Compared to, if TSM ends up playing more as just a straight team fight, if Shenyu ends up setting up a lot of, big noticeable Alistair engages or stuff like that people really remember, and memorable plays are what make the difference here. Either memorable plays or hearing it a lot from public figures who say, this guy's a Rookie of the Year candidate, and then you believe it as well. So I think there are some factors. I think it's going to be a little tough for Shenyu to stand out on his team to the same extent as these other guys. I think a bot laner or a mid laner, it's a little bit easier to give them credit, because you can just see their kill counts and their damage numbers and stuff like that, and keep them top of mind. But I do think Shenyu is a dark horse candidate, and I think if everything works out well, he could very much be in this conversation. And the last player that I kind of want to give credit to here is Tenacity from 100 Thieves. Now, I think it's going to be difficult for him to break into that kind of top 2 or 3 voting area for a couple of reasons. One is that he has to, in order to be the Rookie of the Year, he pretty much has to take over the full-time starter spot from Someday, which maybe he'll do over the course of the year, but we don't know that, right? It's gonna, and the earlier he does it, the better, because if he's not the full-time starter, that instantly kind of like erodes some of his argument. If you just lay out, here are the reasons you should vote for him, right? Oh, he wasn't even a full-time starter. That really kind of hurts his candidacy. Doesn't hurt his value as a player, but it hurts the likelihood of people voting for him as Rookie of the Year. And the other is that he needs to be a real driving force for the team. He can't be a passenger. He can't just be solid and reliable. He can't be the guy who plays the tanks, does these weak side things, doesn't throw, and meanwhile the rest of the team is carrying the load. Even if that's a very valuable player, it's not a Rookie of the Year kind of a thing. And the challenge for Tenacity is going to be that he does have this carry gear to him. That's his more natural mode of playing as he's been coming up. But when you've got Closer, Abadaga, FBI on your team, it's a pretty low chance that Tenacity is going to get a ton of carry opportunities. He could, Abadaga plays supportive styles. Remember all the Karma he would play and things like that. I think FBI is capable of playing without as much jungle help. But you've got you just got more opportunities on your team for other people to step up, get credit as the carries, while you get kind of and you did your job just fine, right? Kind of treatment. So I think there's a pretty good chance that Tenacity is going to fly under the radar this year, that he could have a very good year, but not kind of capture the hearts and minds of the voters to the same extent. So, but I think he's worth having in the conversation for sure. So those are the 4 players that I think are most likely, and kind of some of the factors that may push them to the forefront or not. I'm not going to make, a personal prediction aside from saying I think the most likely is between Berserker and JoJo Pyun, and maybe just which of their teams does better is a really, really simple way to put it. But, I think it's going to be fun to track over the course of the year, and I'll probably do some check-ins now and then about who I feel is leading, who I would vote for at a certain given point along the way. I want to acknowledge that there are some other players who are rookies coming into the year who could break into this conversation. You've got Tukui. I'm pretty sure he's going to be considered a rookie because he's coming from the ERLs. Kaidwo is coming in. He'll be a rookie. Winsome is going to be a rookie. Based on my VOD review and kind of the team context of these players and just expectations for them, I don't expect these 3 to challenge for Rookie of the Year. But, again, it's a long year. A lot of things could happen. And so we'll have to find out what they're able to pull off. Those are my thoughts for now. Let me know if you want to make a prediction in the comments. And let me know who you think is going to win the Rookie of the Year. Make your prediction. Throw it out there. And make sure to subscribe to the channel so you'll see those updates as I check in on them along the way, and have a lot of other kind of preview content and also review content going on as the season actually kicks off very soon, which I'm very excited for. So thanks for watching.